So, hello and welcome to another episode of the Online Entrepreneur Academy podcast. And today it's my huge pleasure to welcome Gareth Lewis, who is an educator and a lot more, which he's going to tell you about. So Gareth, over to you to introduce yourself if you could.
Hi, thanks for inviting me on the podcast. I really do appreciate the opportunity to talk about what I've been doing, certainly very recently in my teaching career. So I've been a teacher for about 20 years now. I started off as a business teacher, teaching business studies, mainly 11, 16, maybe on to 11 to 18, depending on what school I've worked in. I also teach computing and ICT, but more recently, I have been working with teachers to support them to try and get a better work-life balance. I've developed an organisation or a company called Teacher Work Life, where I've been supporting teachers with setting boundaries for the workplace, working on changing their narrative, work on their mindset for teaching, because as we well know at the moment, and there was some statistics recently come out about how much stress and anxiety and workload that teachers are under. And as a teacher for 20 years, what I've been able to do, or what I've managed to do, I think, is to be able to manage my time, to be able to have a life outside teaching. A lot of teachers say they work 60, 70, potentially 80 hours a week, whereas I've never done that. And so I started to think maybe I can help others to do
Fantastic.
something similar. So that's where I'm coming from. And that's what I've just started to do more recently with teachers. And it also comes from being a union rep. Not that it's the direct involvement of being a union rep, but the conversations have started to come around to how can I help you? And I was helping teachers in my own school while doing the repping role. And it's just snowballed from there. And I've started helping others and got onto LinkedIn and things like this and had a lot of people asking questions. So it's snowballed. And so I've set up this organization, if you like, or this little side hustle, maybe. I think that's probably a better way of describing it at the moment, to help other teachers. And I think that's where I am at the moment.
Fantastic. As you said, you're an educator yourself, you're a teacher. That's also what I do in my day job, too, as many people will know. So was there a point what made you realize teachers were burning out? Because it's always seemed to be in the culture, hasn't it? And I could totally agree with you. Don't work at weekends, etc. in teaching. But was there a point that made you realize colleagues are burning out and something had to change? Or is it just an incremental thing?
Well, it's something that even before I became a teacher, when I was actually doing my business management degree, we all have to do a dissertation or a thesis or whatever they're called. And my thesis, as it was named, was about teachers and how to relieve stress and how to use time management skills in order to relieve stress. Strangely enough, even before I became a teacher, and I came into teaching a little bit later, so I didn't just go straight from university, I actually had a career. Then I went to university and got my business management degree after working in business for several years.
Right.
I must have known this was happening, this kind of burnout that was happening with teachers, this stress, but I wanted to become a teacher. And I decided that maybe I should look into time management techniques to see if I could make teaching better for me when I actually got into it. So age 27, I became a teacher. And even the year before that, when I was doing my degree and my PGC, I was doing theses and this work into how to manage time better as a teacher. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that time management is the biggest issue. I think it's something that certainly feeds into it. But I think that's probably when I first started to realize. Moving on, I set, again, certain boundaries. I had certain mindsets going into teaching where I was going to make sure that I was looking after me, because I know that if I didn't look after me, I couldn't look after the children. So that's how I started. And then obviously in the past, I suppose, maybe 10 or 12 years, it seems to have snowballed and got worse and worse. So I found myself speaking to teachers, just anecdotally in the staff room, that sort of thing, about how all sort of things that I do. And people started listening. And so I guess that's how it all started to happen. But as I say, to answer your question, actually, before I even started teaching, I knew this was happening.
Interesting. Yet you still went into it, which is incredible. Yeah. Yeah. And how nice as a business teacher, you had that business experience to share with your students. So why do you think, I don't have an answer, is why does this issue get overlooked in educational circles? Because surely management, someone should be tackling this from the top, you'd have thought.
Yeah, I agree. And when you say management, I'd even go higher than that. I think government. And I think one of the things that I'd like to do with Teacher Work Life is to start to lobby government, start to lobby organisations, obviously. Yeah, it starts with the government. where the government are putting pressures on school leaders, and school leaders tend to pass it on down the chain towards teachers. So I don't think this is purely and simply with teachers. I think you've got lots of head teachers and school leaders out there who are equally feeling the pressure. So is it school leaders that are passing this on to teachers? Yes, it is. But I don't necessarily blame them. In fact,
Yeah.
I actually speak with a lot of school leaders, and I've actually been helping them as well. So I think it comes from the government first. I think it comes from the Ofsted, the DfE. I mean, we've heard stories, obviously, with Ofsted most recently, with some unfortunate events with the head teacher, which has come out in the last sort of couple of years. And that's where it needs to start. The government, people in general, the public need to know that it's not a good place is teaching. And I would go so far as to say that teaching and education is broken in so many ways, which is a whole different podcast. But I
Yeah.
certainly think for teachers specifically, it's very broken right now, and they need so much more support. When you've got sort of 98.5% of teachers who are feeling at least some stress and some anxiety that's causing them to rethink about their future in teaching, that tells you there's a problem.
Absolutely. And we know that I don't have the exact figures on my fingertips, but there are a lot of teachers leaving because they recognize they can't do it anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And while we're talking about UK teaching, I think it's probably a situation that teachers in a lot of countries find themselves in. And yet, often, I don't know about you, but I find the public perception is, speaking for the UK, oh, you get 6 weeks off in the holiday, you get all this holiday time. And how do you deal with that perception of it's an easy job?
Again, you just go back to statistics. And unfortunately, there are some people who just don't understand. They just don't understand what the problem is. And let's be honest, again, you go back to the government and the DfE. There was a recent advert put out by the DfE which showed a young teacher walking to school with children, laughing and joking with them. I don't know what, 8:30 in the morning or whatever, but then also walking out with them at 3:30 in the afternoon, and with the bag and everything, and having a good time. And you think, and that's the perception people have. That's what teachers do. They go in at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and they're leaving at 3:30. That's it. It's brilliant. That's all they have to do. Oh, and they get 6 week holiday as well. It's not like that. And so again, you go back to those sort of adverts, and that's what the public perception is. That's what the public are seeing. And they're thinking teaching's easy. In fact, I was having a conversation on LinkedIn actually with someone just the other day who was talking about the fact that people are actually becoming teachers because they see it as a really easy career. And I was actually stunned. And I replied to this post and said, I don't get that. How can they be so naive to think that it's a real easy career where you say you're starting at 8:30 and leaving at 3:30? And they just said, no, really. And it was a recruiter. It was a recruiter in business. And they were actually saying, no, that's genuinely the impression they're getting. And I said, that's interesting, that is, because that's taught me something. And it probably tells you something about the fact that there is a really high percentage of teachers that leave within the first 3 to 5 years. And that tells you that's probably why.
Yeah, that is very insightful. So we have to rethink the whole training system, perhaps let people know what it's really, so that they don't waste their time in their own career while this is being sorted out, at least.
Absolutely. Again, you talk about training. I think teacher training is a really important factor in this, because teachers, when they go into teacher training, they're taught about how to teach. They're taught about how to handle behavior, all this sort of thing, which is absolutely right and proper. The science behind teaching. But what they never do in teacher training is say, how do you manage your time? How are you going to manage this workload? That never comes up at all. And that's obviously something that I would really like to push. And I've already started to speak to a couple of people I know in universities about potentially even bringing things like this into teacher training. And I think that's a really important aspect that people need to be aware about. And if you're talking to them about that on teacher training, then it's going to give them that impression, oh, actually, maybe it isn't as easy as I think it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everyone. I'm sure a lot of people go in with their eyes open, like I did and a lot of people do. But I think there's obviously a large percentage that are going into it with entirely the wrong idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, at least, at the very least, we can give them full information so it's an informed choice rather than jumping from their own education to university to teaching without any of that in-between time, which is so valuable.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how do you help teachers manage their time in a way that will actually work for them? Have you got any, I know you've got lots of advice. Could you share a little bit with us today? And different things for different people, obviously, but I think this is going to be really valuable. But I know it's going to be valuable.
Absolutely. The first thing I always say to people is whether I don't always charge for what I do, although obviously it is becoming a side venture, it's becoming a
Yeah.
business. So I don't always charge, but whether I'm talking to people in sort of the free way where I'm just chatting to people, or whether I'm doing it as far as a coaching conversation, I always ask them to start with. The first thing is, well, what is it that you think is causing you this stress, this anxiety, this workload? Just talk me through it. And they talk about that. And then we say, all right, what I'll ask is, what do you want it to be like? What do you foresee teaching like for you? Tell me about what you want to see. And usually, I've got to be honest, so far, it comes back with, or people come back with, I just want to work less. I just want to be able to manage all these tasks that I'm being asked to do. And so then we start to get into the crux of it. Okay, so what can we do? And what I try and do, like any good coach would do, is I want them to make the decisions for themselves. I want the teacher or the school leader to say, okay, I want to try and identify themselves, because if they do that, then they'll buy into that more. And
Yeah, sure.
it could be developing a habit. And again, let's make it really straightforward. One of the things that we always end up talking about is the very first thing that you could do is just leave at a certain time and don't take anything with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes hard for a leader, but I do find that for a teacher, that's usually the first kind of quick win, if you like, because for them, just get into someone's mindset that they are going to leave at 4:30, 5 o'clock, whatever it happens to be, whatever makes you feel comfortable. It doesn't matter. There's no hard and fast rule. Whatever it makes you feel comfortable, that's the first win. Because if they can go home at 5 o'clock and they can then spend time with their children, they don't go back to their work later on in the evening, and they enjoy that evening, they get back much fresher. And usually over the sort of the space of a few weeks, in fact, not even that long, usually it's usually literally a week or two later, as long as they can keep to it, is that it starts to change and they suddenly start to feel a lot better. And it's just such a small shift. It's a small little habit, if you like, or a mindset shift, and which anyone can do, because sometimes it might be, and one of the things to talk about is that it might be that some people do leave on the bell or pretty much straight after. Fine, because they've got to go and pick kids up. I understand that.
Yeah.
Well, if you're working, one of the things to talk about is if you're working in the real world of work, and I call it the real world sometimes, the real world of work, you might have to work till 5 o'clock. So could you get someone else to pick up your kids? Maybe mum could do that. Okay, fine. Get your mum to do it for a week. See if she's happy to do that. Get your mum to do that for a week. You stay until 5 o'clock and get everything done out of the way. And then what we'll do is next time we have a session together, next time we talk, come back and tell me how that makes you feel. And again, this is anecdotal, but 90% of the time, they'll come back and say, actually, it's brilliant. I don't think about it after that, and I feel so much more fresher because I've got it out of the way. And again, maybe that does go back to the time management aspect. And I'm certainly not telling teachers how to manage their time. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to help people to realize that there are very small, quick, easy wins. Another thing we talk about is narrative. Sometimes it's the way we talk about teaching ourselves. Oh, I must do this. It's for the kids.
Yeah.
It's one of the most frustrating things I've heard in teaching is it's for the kids. We know it's for the kids. We didn't come into teaching for it to be anything else for the kids. So we get that.
Yeah.
But
Given.
why don't we just change that narrative a little bit? Why don't we say, I need to go home now to look after myself? Because if I know if I go home now to look after myself, I know that I'll come in tomorrow and I'll be so much more fresher. I'll be so much more motivated. I won't be stressed or harassed because I've done some planning till 2 a.m. And you won't be tired. You'll be there. You'll be better for the students. So actually, by looking after yourself, you become better for the students and you feel better about yourself. And again, that's just two very small little things. And as you said, that there are so many different things that can be done. But it always comes down to, and I call it the 4 pillars of sustainable teaching. It always comes down to narrative, mindset, boundaries, habits. And they all interlink anyway, to be honest.
100%. That makes huge sense. And it's like just turning it around, isn't it? And using those words instead, oh, I'm doing it for the kids, and then stopping people. Are you? Think about it as you've just illustrated. My next question is going to be, what's the biggest myth about time management that you'd like to bust? You've answered that in a way, but is there anything else to add to that?
Just think one of the biggest myths to me, and whether this is time management or not, I don't know, but this whole idea that, and I'm going to use the word gaslight here, the modern sort of term. And I think that sometimes we gaslight ourselves And certainly school leaders gaslight, and they don't necessarily mean to. I generally don't think that. I just think that it sometimes comes out in conversation. And I think then we go back to government or Ofsted and this gaslighting going on, which is constantly being fed into us. And I think leaders could take big responsibility when it comes to time management. One of the things that, and I'll be honest, that the head teacher that we have is brilliant at. And a couple of times I've had a chat with colleagues who said, "Oh, the head teacher's already left," and I'm like, "Good." So we should.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure that he's going back to work later on, and sometimes he'll go off and he might spend some time with kids, come back for a governor's meeting and things like that. I'm sure that's happening all the time that they don't see. But they're saying, "But he's gone," and I'm saying, "Good, so should you.
Yeah.
Why don't you follow that lead?"
Yeah.
And I think that helps so much that if they see head teachers and school leaders actually going home and taking care of themselves and talking about their own children, then, and spending time with the children, then actually that then rubs off. And it's changing the narrative. Because I say, when a teacher might come to me and say, the head teacher's left already, and again, good, fantastic. That's showing great leadership.
Yeah.
And they could have, they thought, what, really? What? I don't. I'm like, no, so they should. They've got a right to a life as well. And again, you say things like, they might be coming back later. You don't know that. They might be doing some work at home. I don't know, but that's their own time management. If any teacher wants to leave on the bell and go off and have 2 hours with the family or whatever else it is they're doing, absolutely right. But then their time management is to then box 2 hours later on. But again, that comes back down to discipline and setting boundaries. It's like, okay, I'm going to go back to work, and I'm going to go back to work at 7, and I'm going to work till 9 or whatever it happens to be. That's it. I'm not going to work till 10. I'm not going to think, oh, I still got that, so I'll do that as well quickly. No, you do that. Even if you've got a pile of papers to mark and you haven't marked them by 9 o'clock, finish. What's going?
100%.
Still be there the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it has changed a bit in staff rooms, and I've been in all different sort of age groups of staff rooms, but it's almost like sometimes I suppose I'm really asking, can it still be the same? Are people sort of saying, oh, I worked till X, I worked all day Sunday, and it's that internal pressure, sort of almost trying to outdo each other on the amount of time they've given.
It is, and I think you've touched on what I call the teacher martyr syndrome there.
Mm.
Unfortunately, and again, I don't necessarily think teachers mean to do this in school. And when I say teacher, I mean educate anyone that works in school. But I don't think they necessarily mean to do this.
No, I don't think so either.
But I think it's something that just creeps in. As you say, there's the staff room talk. Oh, I worked till midnight last night doing marking. And then that makes the next person think, especially if it's a younger teacher, it makes them think, oh, I'm going to have to work till midnight to do that. And so it becomes the cycle carries on. And then they start talking like that. And then we all start talking like that. When actually, that's entirely the wrong way to talk. What we should be saying is, oh, I got them papers marked last night, but I didn't quite finish it. I didn't get the data put in. I just did the papers. But you know what? I'm going to do that for an hour after school today.
It's prioritizing, isn't it? I put my hands up to a number of times not doing something because I haven't had time. And I think the longer we say, yes, we'll do it, the more that gets loaded on. And I know you've talked about that, what I call the ability to say no.
Mm.
So if someone feels they should be saying, no, I can't do that, how can they say that to their department head so that they're not putting themselves in a negative situation? Because that is the worry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who didn't finish the job, supposedly. What have
I call that managing up. And it's something I talk a lot about. And I've been, funnily enough, recently with my immediate line manager, certainly over the past sort of 6 months, I've been talking to them about how I've actually been managing them. And they're like, what? And as I said, and I don't mean this to be negative, but it's about managing expectations. It's saying things like there might be a new task, or we've got to do a data entry which you didn't know about, or something like that. It doesn't matter what the task is. And we need to do it now. Okay. Fine. So you want me to do that now? That's not a problem. If that's the priority, I'll do that now. What don't you want me to do in order to do that?
magical?
Exactly. What don't you want me to do? And quite often, the answer is, I don't know. It's all important. Okay, so I'll do that. Not a problem. You can direct me whichever way you want to during directed time. I've got a problem with that at all. Just tell me what you want me to do, because currently, and I use this quite often, I've got this time allocated. I've got the hour after school today allocated to do X task. You're asking me to now do Y task. I'll do Y task now, but understand that X is coming a bit later in the week. Is that okay? And they usually say, okay, yeah, we can work with that. Yeah, fine. Okay. And it's professional dialogue. That's just talking about things. And actually, you set the expectations well over time. It does take a bit of time, but over time, you set the expectation about what you're prepared to do and what you're not prepared to do. And it's okay to say, I leave at 4:30. Don't come to me at 3:30 and say, I need this task doing and it needs to be done right now. Because what starts to happen now, and over this past year, I get on really well with my line manager. And we're both fantastic. And we've learned to work with each other. We've learned about our little idiosyncrasies. But one of the things that now that they'll do is that they'll come to me and say, we've got this task to do. It's just come up. I've just been to a meeting. This is what we've got to do. Okay. If I said, can we get this done for Monday? Would that be enough time? And I'll be like, yeah, that's fine. Thank you for then. So already they're saying, do you think we could do this in that time?
Rather than just, this is what we've got to do it now thing. Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah, and we've got to stop this I can keep doing and loading on more and more. And I think it's certainly the new teacher's expectation. That's what happens and that's what they should be doing. We need to stop that. So turning to business, because obviously you've got a lot of skills and experience in this, and listeners, viewers, remember to look in the show notes so you can see how to contact Gareth about this. But tell us a bit about how you're starting to turn this into, you referred to it as a side hustle. I probably want to say a very important aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Funnily enough, I started this because I hate to use the word passionate. I don't like that word. Apologies for the people that do use that. But I'm really motivated to help teachers. I want to be values driven. I don't want, it's about impact over profit. And I'm not even a fan of the word impact because it gets used too often as well. But it is impact over profit. I would prefer to keep people in teaching than make a profit myself. Now, I'm in a fortunate position. I'm a teacher. I think I get fairly well paid for it. I don't necessarily have any money troubles in that area. So this has become literally a side hustle. It's become a little bit of a business on the side. Now, the really good thing about having it, and this is maybe as well, the good thing about creating like a side hustle or a side business, and you'll know this as well, is that it does make you stop looking at teaching and thinking, well, I need to do 5 more hours or I need to work on a Sunday afternoon. Because I think to myself, on a Sunday afternoon, I've got some sessions booked in to have a chat with some teachers. So I'm not doing any work. That's my time. And I'm choosing to use my time for this other thing. So I started doing this because I thought, I was helping people in my own school. I hope they would verify that. And I've got quite a few of them that spoke very highly of me on social media and such. So I appreciate that about
your
them.
LinkedIn profile tells all for sure.
Thank you. But then I thought maybe if I'm starting to do this in my school, maybe I can do it a bit further afield. And I have had a lot of conversations. And again, I think I've done a lot of it free, where I've taken up my own time. And I thought, well, actually, maybe I should just start charging for this because I am giving my time up for free. So actually, then I thought, look, what am I going to do? So like you said, I'm a business teacher and I thought, okay, what would I be telling my students now? First thing, let's start a website. Let's just create a website, a basic website. It's not perfect yet. It's far from it. In fact, before we recorded this podcast, I was actually playing with a few bits and pieces that I'm just not happy with and that are not working right. So it'll take time, but people can contact me via that website. They can ask for, I do what I call a teacher transformation package, which is 3 months or a term, if we like, where I'm absolutely 100% sure that I can turn around a teacher's work life in that 3-month period. Absolutely convinced of it because I've done it before. I've also got what I call teacher recharge sessions, which is just a one-off session. People might want to have a chat with me for an hour. I'll give them some sort of literature as well that goes with it, like a PDF document with all sorts of ideas on it. But what we'll do is just talk around what I've already said. And the same with the teacher transformation, because there's nothing really different between the two, except obviously with the teacher transformation package, I'm working on it for longer. And I offer things like unlimited support. So if you just want to chat with me, get in touch with me about WhatsApp, whatever. If I'm free and available, I'll chat with you. So it's almost like unlimited support for that time. But with the recharge session, it's a 1-hour session. We talk through, what it is that you feel is causing the problems, how you'd like to see your teaching career move forward from this point, and how you would like to live it. And then we set up some 2 or 3 basic transformational targets to try and help you improve. And so you can do it that way as well. So I thought I'd do this, and I don't charge. Sorry, it sounds a bit of a sales pitch I'm going into now, so apologies. I don't necessarily. I don't charge as much as a lot of coaches out there. Lots of coaches, when you look at coaches, they'll charge £1,000, £2,000 something for an equal period of time. I'm charging 600, which is like £200 a month for 3 months. And I think that's very fair. And I feel I can do that because, as I said, I'm about the value of keeping teachers in teaching. I've been lucky enough to have 20 odd years now of being a teacher where I've managed to do this. I never work more than 45 hours a week, ever.
Yeah,
And that's even with parents' evenings. And if I can do it, and it's not because I'm some sort of fantastic teacher that's brilliant at time management. I'm not. It's just, sorry,
no Superman.
not Superman at all. No, it's just basic sort of common sense things that can be done. That once you talk through it with someone, it just becomes again straightforward. And again, that's why I know I can change these things. And so I don't want to charge the earth. I really don't. And whether this becomes my retirement plan or not, I don't know in the future. But I feel that I give extra benefit because quite often you get consultants, particularly going to school, that tell you how to be a teacher and tell you to do all these things. And you all sit there thinking, but you haven't been doing it for 5 years. How can you sit there or stand there and tell me how to be a teacher and how to do X, Y, or Z? And we all think that, even though I do think there's a place for consultants, we all sit there and do that. But I'm actually still a teacher. So there's nothing that I am saying which I don't do myself.
Yeah, that's exactly. And from an entrepreneurial point of view, this is a good model. Whatever someone's skills are, you can package them up, you can offer value, and it doesn't have to be charging ridiculous prices. And I say that because I see them as well, although it's just a fair price to move someone forward in whatever area that is.
Absolutely. And by the way, I'm not criticising those people that charge that amount of money at all. Good luck to them, as far as I'm concerned. Exactly. But for me, it's about more of a mission, if you like. I don't know if that's too corny, but a bit more of a mission than it is anything else.
But it's changing the way of thinking, isn't it? And if I understand correctly, the more people that know that it can be done, the more it will roll into an everyday teaching life and will make a difference in a word, and it will make a huge jump.
Absolutely. And I just want to clarify as well that, again, this isn't to criticize teachers at all. I'm not wanting to, I'm wanting to help teachers. I have had it, but some people have said to me, you're just telling us what to do. And I'm not telling you what to do. The fact is that I'm here to help. And if I can help people, brilliant. If people want to just read stuff I put on LinkedIn for free, that's fine too. That's no problem. If people want to just ignore me and want to tell me to be quiet, that's fine too. I don't mind, because this is just about helping those that feel like they need that bit of help, to feel like that they can have that sustainable teaching career, because that's what I want to have. Because as I said earlier, I feel that teaching is broken in very many ways. And I think this is one way to manage that. And don't get me wrong, there needs to be massive systemic change here.
In every
But all I'm saying is that teachers can do something themselves, whether it's manage up and be a bit more confident maybe in speaking with line managers and head teachers, whether it's just changing the habits a little bit, changing the way they talk or the mindset. There are little things we can do. I'm not going to say it's going to be perfect, but what I'm saying is you can make it a lot better.
For someone who's thinking, I love my job, but I just can't manage the time, then the help is out there with you. Or as you say, just looking at, as you said, your LinkedIn posts and what you've said now today, there's so many things that can help get started to honestly a better lifestyle and helping the people they're teaching because they'll be fresher.
I'm not just on LinkedIn, I'm also on Instagram. And I'm also I've got a Facebook page as well. So whatever social media you want to be on, I generally tend to copy the post roughly the same onto all three platforms.
That's good advice. And again, remember, folks, we've got this in the show notes, so you can just go down and click and get your immediate link towards Gareth's social media and the website as well. And I love what you said about the website. If I could just circle back to that, because what you're doing with the website, and you're saying it's not perfect, and that's a good message for people. Don't wait to do your little side hustle, your business, whatever it is, until everything's perfect, because it's never going to happen, is it?
No, absolutely. And as I said earlier, I was working on this just before I met up with you, and the thing I was working on earlier on was the contact me bit, funnily enough. So I'm hoping that by the time this goes out, I'll have that all squared away and sorted out. If it doesn't, just send me an email, gareth@teacherworklife.com, and I'll get back in touch with you.
Fantastic. And things do go a little bit askew when we're doing our own work, and sometimes links don't work, but it doesn't mean it's the end of the world running your own business. So that's, again, another great message for anyone running their own business, whether you're a teacher, educator, coach. So if you could give every teacher one gift or tool or resource, what would that be? I know you've given us lots of hints and tips already in the conversation.
Okay, I do have little freebies that I give away, if you like, or little documents, if you like, and I think I mentioned that already. But one of the thing I would say
Yeah.
to anyone is, if you are struggling in your teaching right now, or you're a school leader struggling in leadership, one thing I would do, and and it's a real quick win, as I said earlier, is just set yourself a boundary. Just if you're working long hours, for example, set yourself that boundary to leave at a certain time, or potentially refuse to take a bag with you, because if you don't take a bag with you, you won't be tempted to put books in it to take home and mark. So just something small like that. If there's one takeaway thing, just change one thing.
Just change one.
Anything, but one thing. I'm very interested in James Clear's Atomic Habits, and so this is an atomic habit. Literally, one small little thing. Don't refuse to pick up your bag as you leave on a morning, and then you won't take books home with you. That's the easiest thing you could possibly do, as well as saying, I'm going to leave at a certain time.
Fantastic. Coming to the fun part of our conversation, and thank you so much for all the wisdom, because this is going to really help people. And again, do listen back to the conversation here, because there's gold dust in this and it will be life-changing. So if you could take just one stress-busting item with you to a desert island, what would it be? So you could think journal, yoga mat. What would your stress-busting item be for you personally?
Okay. If it's a personal thing, I have a guilty pleasure that I love 90s dance music. So I would take my Spotify with me and just listen to 90s dance music. And I hope I'll be on my own, because then I'd dance like I used to do in the 1990s.
Yeah.
Very trance sort of type music. So I do have a guilty pleasure for that. So that's what I would do. But enough, I'm not necessarily into. It's great to have like stress relieving tools and well-being tools, but I'm not necessarily into that. I'm more into the sort of the practicalities of, we can do something to make it better. Does that make sense?
It does indeed, because I love cycling, so I would go out and cycle for miles on my road bike. So I'm with you on the movement thing. So you're allowed to bring one book that helps people relax, recharge, rethink. So what are you packing?
I've bring 2 books. I'm a huge Lee Child Jack Reacher fan. So I've read more Jack Reacher books. I love Jack Reacher. And so I'd definitely take one of them books. But I'd also have to take, as I've already mentioned it, James Clear, Atomic Habits, because it just helps you to. I've read that book 2 or 3 times now, and I keep finding little things that I think I can adapt that for my teaching. So I would take that as well. But again, that would go against what I believe, which is not to work in holiday times. So I wouldn't be necessarily thinking that, but it might help you.
So yeah, there's a bit of a conundrum there, isn't it?
There is.
And I'm going to go more to the traditional desert island questions now. If you could take one special food with you, you've got your fish in the sea, you've got your berries, etc. What food would you take?
Oh, food. Do you know what? Can I not say food, but can I drink?
Yes, one thing. I've changed it to one consumable.
Okay, this is going to sound really boring, but I absolutely adore bottled water.
Really?
I know this is going to make me sound so boring.
I'm looking at my shocked face here.
Yeah, I know. I think, again, link back to the 90s here. When I used to go clubbing, yeah, exactly. When I used to go clubbing in the 90s, I would always be with a bottle of water. I've just loved it ever since. I just love cold, fresh water.
Yeah.
So if it was at the desert island, it would actually make sense that I had a survival thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a survival thing, yeah. Yeah, we all have our bottle of cold water with us in the classroom when we're
Maybe things I need a big ice bucket as well to keep it cold. I don't like it as much.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the ice bucket.
It's the ice bucket that I need.
Okay. It's been great, Gareth, talking to you. Thank you so much indeed. Some golden nuggets for teachers, educators, and I think for entrepreneurs, just seeing how people can take a skill, something they know, and turn it into a side hustle business, and something that really helps people, which you're coming back to all the time, aren't you? We can feel the passion. You want to help people and help teachers stay in teaching. And of course, there's a whole nother subject about how teachers can use their skills in other areas if they really find it too much. But thank you very much. And leave the final word with you. One last bit of advice, or circling back to the key bit of advice, what would you say to educators who are feeling stressed, tired, exhausted?
I would just say that I know the temptation is there to leave teaching for a lot of people, and I'm never going to say that's the wrong thing for people. But what I would say to any teacher who's really struggling, who's really thinking, now's the time for me to leave, I would just try and do, some of the things that maybe we spoke about in this podcast. Maybe speak to them. Doesn't even have to be me. Maybe look for a teacher in your workplace that you think they seem to have it spot on. They all seem happy. They all seem energized. Speak to them. Ask them how they're doing it, because the chances are they're probably doing something like what I'm recommending. So yeah, look for the positive teachers. Look for the positive vibe teachers. Don't stay away from those ones that kind of talk teaching down, because it'll make you want to leave. And I'm not saying that some people shouldn't leave. It's absolutely right for some people. But I would just say that there are other options first. Please look at the other options and see if you can make teaching the career that you wanted it to be when you first went into it.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And what wisdom in those last words. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.